There we go. Michael, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you on my end. Can you hear me on your end, Christian?
Yes, I can. All right. So it seems like we still have quite a few participants slowly coming in here. Maybe we'll give them, yeah, maybe one more minute and then we'll start. Is that okay?
Perfect. Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
guys hear us on your end for the attendees? Can you hear both Christian and I?
Yeah, maybe throw it in the chat and just if you could hear us in the chat, maybe just say we can hear you. I'm sure they can. If I can hear you on my side, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I'll just say please stay on mute and leave uh, questions. All right. Uh, ah, so I think, yeah, I see it. So chat is disabled. So whenever there's a question, it looks like they have to type they're using a question and answers.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. So the chat is disabled, but we'll do whenever there's a questions, we'll use the Q&A. The only thing we ask is that you save it till the end. We have quite a bit of information to go through, so we're going to just do it very, very quickly and then leave questions till the very end. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, this is kind of our first, both Michael's and I first run through where someone else is quarterbacking it who isn't either of us. So I think that's why it started out a little bit clunky, but we should be okay. All right, Michael, are we ready to go?
Yeah, I think so. People will probably keep trickling in, but I'm sure there's some intro.
Yeah, I think so. Right now, we still have numbers approaching. I'll keep a close eye on the Q&A just to remind people to save it till the end here. Okay, but I think right now, to be respectful of time and to attempt to finish in an hour, I think we should start so that we could leave some questions, leave some time at the end. Okay. All
Sounds
right.
great.
So here we go. Preparing for 2023's real estate market. My name is Christian Dye, and I am from Latitude-West Financial. Michael Browne is from the Green Team Mortgages, and the two of us will be talking about preparing for 2023. We'll be talking about mortgage rates, pricing, cash flowing properties, and is the housing bubble going to burst? So as we dive into it, we ask that you leave your questions until the end. If you'd like to reach us, we'll put our contact information again at the end. To jump right in, the first thing we want to say is the information given today is not to be considered as real estate or mortgage advice. Advise that you do your own research, work with your professionals. So everything we're doing today is for educational purposes only. I'm going to start off by asking Michael, how can we prepare for what's going on in 2023? Talk to us about mortgage rates. Talk to us about housing prices. So, Michael, with that, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian. Thanks for the intro. I'm going to try to share my screen and hopefully I don't break technology because that's been my luck for the past week.
Sure, I'm
Let's,
sure we'll be fine. We'll get through the clunkiness together over here.
yeah, exactly. Done a
No,
surprisingly few number of Zooms over COVID, so kind of interesting.
no, I think it's looking good. It's up.
There we go. Awesome. Perfect. So yeah, what's going on with rates and the housing market? For those that don't know me, my name is Mike. I'm a mortgage broker at the Green Mortgage Team. I've helped fund over $122 million in mortgages in 2021, on track for a similar number for 2022. And I primarily work with real estate investors to help build their portfolio of residential properties. First, what are we not talking about? Don't overly want to go over the details of the last 2 years. You can talk to any Uber driver or taxi driver, and they'll be able to tell you exactly what's been going on. I also don't want to talk too much about politics, because that could be a conversation completely on its own. What we will go over is where we expect rates and property prices to go, and how to plan accordingly to be proactive and not reactive. So there's a lot of talk about recession, a potential recession coming up, a lot of recession risk and a lot of conversation around it. But this could be the time coming up to potentially increase your net worth significantly if you know what you're doing. The cliche, millionaires are made in recessions. In fact, it's predicted by Credit Suisse that there will be 40% more millionaires globally in 2026 than there were in 2021. In saying that, we want to be really prudent with our investing, and I'd like to talk a little bit about Warren Buffett and the way he invests with his fund. What he looks at is fundamental investing. So what he's really looking into is the fundamentals of a business. In our case, with real estate, we're looking at the fundamentals of real estate investing, and he actually backtracks it. So he determines what price he is willing to purchase an investment at. And he doesn't necessarily buy it at the market price that it currently is. He'll wait until the market price comes down enough that it makes sense for him to buy. And so the three sections we're going to go over today are where the market is expected to go, the market changes, or how the market changes affect future investments, and tips to prepare for this 2023. Where are things going? Well, the Bank of Canada and the Fed have already told us their plans. They've kind of already indicated what direction that they're taking. Macklem has directly said that we need even higher interest rates. Granted, this was in October. The narrative has not changed too much, even in recent times. He's claimed that we need to take forceful action until inflation is back at the 2% target. So we kind of know roughly what we're looking at here. In fact, there's also a monetary policy guide on the Bank of Canada's website. I include a lot of QR codes in case anyone wants to do some extra due diligence. I'm a huge nerd and I love reading about this stuff, so I go through it all the time. But the Bank of Canada has talked that it usually takes 18 to 24 months for rates to fully affect the market. And lastly, Carolyn Rogers, this is November 22nd, from the Bank of Canada, has explicitly said that we need lower house prices to restore a balance to Canada's housing market. And that all sounds pretty negative, but we need to kind of decide, are we going to fight, flight, or freeze? As a real estate investor or an investor in general, we want to make logical decisions as opposed to emotional decisions. And so I like to boil things down to this very easy equation. IV is your investment value. It's a perceived value that you have on a certain type of investment. And MV is the market value. If the IV, the investment value, is significantly greater than the market value, then it can make sense to add it to your portfolio. Again, this is kind of similar to how Warren Buffett approaches his investment style with fundamental analysis. To get the IV, to understand how we find IV, we would build a pro forma for an investment. This specifically is for the BRRRR strategy. I built this sheet to basically borrow funds for the down payment as well as the construction. And what typically happens is there's a cap rate on the market, and you determine the income generation of the asset, and you multiply, or you divide it by the cap rate, and you would get the estimated investment value of that property or that investment, and you can compare it to the value that it's currently selling for on the market. Main variables you need to pay attention to when creating the pro forma are the property price, rental income, and probably more importantly in this current market is the interest rates, which affect your biggest expense, the mortgage payments. So first is the price. As we can see, since 2006, Canada has been generally on an upward trend. Granted, most of this is in the Greater Vancouver and Greater Toronto area. But as you can see, my green circle is also missing the plot for some of these locations, but this green spot's supposed to be up here. As you can see in the near term, we are seeing prices to significantly come down largely from the rates being increased drastically. So the peak in Canada was hit in February. On the flip side, we're seeing average rents come up quite a bit over the last few months. There was a significant drop during COVID, largely to tenant laws in Canada favoring the tenants as opposed to the landlords, and driving down demand of rent and up of supply. And now we're seeing it reverse, and we're seeing rental income increase generally across the board across Canada. And lastly, interest rates. Obviously everyone's paying attention to where interest rates are going. They've gone up very significantly since February. We're starting to see maybe a taper. The Bank of Canada's most recent rate increase was only 0.5 instead of the aggressive 0.75. That's indicated by the green arrow, but I would also like to point to the red circle between 2010 and 2020. This area of time was very stable. The interest rates as well as inflation was very stable between this entire decade. And I would say that's probably where a normal market would sit. Sorry, and the other point I was going to bring up is that we're expecting that rates are also likely to be overshooting where they're supposed to go. So the Bank of Canada's decision is based off of bringing inflation down, as I mentioned earlier. And to do that, they're hiking rates more aggressively than necessary. And so it's very likely that they're going to be overshooting and bringing rates higher than they actually need to. So this brings us into the timelines, because if rates are going to come back down, we kind of need to have an idea of when that would be, or at least when they plateau. Going back to the slide from earlier, there is again that guide on how monetary policy works, and the Bank of Canada has explicitly said that it usually takes 18 to 24 months. There's a few tweaks to this though, because the rates affect real estate a lot faster than they affect other pieces of industry, and a large portion of GDP in Canada is real estate. So as rates drastically increase fast and are front loaded now, it'll cause real estate to be affected a lot quicker than it will for other industries. And this is actually supposed to be the slide that I was talking about. So as interest rates decrease, typically we see real estate prices increase, and vice versa. When interest rates increase, we see real estate prices decrease. So what should we look to do as a real estate investor trying to build your portfolio? The first big tip is improve your deal analysis. So this goes back to the pro forma we were talking about before. You want to learn how to analyze the different variables that are in it, like the price, the rental income, interest rates, and everything like that. And when you're doing deal analysis, you're asking the question, what is the current and future income of the asset you're looking at? What are the expected expenses for the asset you're looking at? How will you finance the deal, and what are the costs of financing? And maybe more importantly, what are the tax implications if you took on the deal? The next big tip is learning how to deep dive into risk analysis. This is a topic that I personally really enjoy. I think risk is fascinating, again, because I'm a big math geek. But what risk analysis is asking are, what are the risks that exist or are possible? Sometimes they're hidden risks. That's something that we would call like a black swan event. And sometimes they're well known and you can think about them quite clearly. You'll want to think about the probability of a certain risk happening. You want to ask, are you prepared and comfortable to take the risk? And more importantly, do you have a rainy day fund, AKA, do you have liquidity? This is a key feature in risk analysis, especially if you're doing anything with leveraged investing. So if you're buying real estate, you're typically taking out a mortgage. And one of the worst things that can happen with leveraged investing is to foreclose and miss payments. So you want to make sure that you have liquidity enough to cover the mortgage payments. Third tip is keep in mind that good investments will move very quickly. What we're currently seeing on the market is there are a lot of investors still looking for deals. They're still getting pre-approved. And typically when they are getting an accepted offer, the files are moving a lot faster than in a normal market. We have seen subject to removal coming back to the market, but it's still been very, very tight timelines, and closing dates have been extremely tight as well. A lot of them have been within a month to a month and a half for closing dates, and subject removals closer to about a week or sooner. You also want to learn how to analyze a deal quickly because you don't want to lose out on an investment opportunity. And the last tip is to really understand your mortgage terms. I've talked to a lot of past clients and people that we've been in contact with that we may not have worked with. We've been talking a lot about what mortgage product they have and the decision that they made when they first got their mortgage versus what decision they would have made now. And I think it's really crucial to understand a lot about what mortgage that you're getting, if you're getting a new mortgage or if you have an existing mortgage. I call this the line of certainty and flexibility. And basically what it's showing is that the further on the left of the graph you are, the more flexible but uncertain you are in your mortgage product. And on the far right side, the more certain you are but inflexible the mortgage product. And what I mean by flexibility is it has to do with the penalty of breaking the mortgage. So on the left side, a HELOC, there's no penalty. Variable, there's a 3-month interest penalty. And with fixed rates, they use an IRD. So as you go further to the right, you're more locked into your mortgage portion. On the flip side, we have certainty. A 10-year fixed provides a lot of certainty for what you're going to be paying over the next 10 years, whereas a HELOC is not very certain. The Bank of Canada can greatly control and change the rate and payment that you're going to be paying. Different strategies and different types of real estate will fit on this grid in different ways. So if you're doing things like flips, you might want to stick closer to the left-hand side. Whereas if you're a long-term investor and you have a lot of liquidity and you don't plan on refinancing or selling the property at any point, a 10-year fixed could potentially make sense for you. Just keep in mind that there would be a pretty hefty penalty if you have to sell or refinance. And those are my 4 tips to help succeed in 2023. Try to potentially continue building your portfolio. Again, improve your deal analysis, deep dive into risk analysis, be prepared. Good investments will move quickly, and you want to understand your financing options. And that is my part about the upcoming market.
Fantastic. Like I said, I will share both of our contact information at the end as well. So that was remarkable with the amount of slides that you had, Michael. I'm glad that you were able to get through everything in a clean fashion. So now I'm moving on to let me just sorry about that. Let me try this one more time. So I'm going to share my portion. And so for those of you who don't know myself, my name is Christian Dye, and I have a financial practice here in British Columbia, although I service many clients across Canada. And so what I will be talking about today is cash flowing properties. Okay, hold on. I'll be talking about properties outside of the Lower Mainland because people are interested into different areas. And I will also be talking about where to look. And sorry, I'm going to just get this thing going. Where to look, and as well as, is there a bubble and are we going to burst? So there are 2 places that I'm drawing much of my information on. One of them is from Sebastian McMahon. He's a chief strategist, senior economist, and vice president of IA Investment Management. And I will use some of the data that he has shared with me. I will also be using a recently released report on Canadian housing outlook. So once again, I've got a very unique financial practice, Latitude-West, because we're essentially financial advisors, but we focus on real estate investors. And so instead of focusing on the stock market, RSPs, TFSAs, we focus on real estate investors. As a matter of fact, we're all real estate investors ourselves. So we're helping to guide our clients with real estate decisions. We're analyzing and we're seeing if it's appropriate or not for their, for their goals and what they're trying to do. So it's very unlike your financial advisor from the banks, very unlike an independent financial advisor, because we focus and deal solely, well, not solely, but we work heavily with real estate investors. Okay, so our business model, typically we are licensed in insurance, investments, and financial planning, but really it's that real estate component that makes us most unique. So the questions that I'm going to answer today, the first one is, where are the best Canadian real estate investments? Okay, so very, very good question. So I'm going to fall back first at understanding, is the Canadian housing market, is the Canadian real estate market, expected to increase, and why? So the quick answer is yes. Canada does not have enough housing with the amount of immigration that's coming in and the amount of natural migration that's going on. So if you can see here, homes per 1,000 persons, notice among the G7 countries, Canada is actually the lowest. It's the lowest among them. So we do not have enough housing for the amount of people that want to come into Canada. So here's an immigration report by province. So this over here is a forecast up to 2042. So between now, this report came out in 2019 and 2042, if you take a look, Canada is expected to increase by 9.1%, but I want you to look carefully at the different provinces. So this is going to help to guide when people say, well, what are the best provinces to invest in? Well, the quick answer is it depends on what you're looking for. But if we start with the demographics, where are the people attempting to go in the future? Take a look at Alberta. Alberta leads the way. 16.6% is where they, is where they are projecting the greatest amount of migration. But our big heavy hitters are always Ontario, BC. But if you take a look at some of the other ones, it's actually quite surprising, such as Saskatchewan, such as PEI. Okay, so Canadians' highest population growth rates. So in my top three over here, we have Oshawa, Halifax, and Kitchener-Waterloo area. But very close behind, we see Kelowna, which is here in BC. We see Calgary, which we've already mentioned. 1.8 is Edmonton. So that area is expected to, right now, those are the highest growth rates. And why do we want to understand that? To me, this is kind of the Wayne Gretzky quote, you want to kind of know where the puck is going, not exactly where it is, because if immigration is going over there, that doesn't mean that there's a population boom there right now. It just means that these are the fastest growing cities. So when I talk about real estate investing, I have to talk, and then Michael's a numbers guy, as am I. My background is actually in mathematics. So there's three fundamentals that I look at with my clients when I am doing any sort of real estate analysis with them. Those three fundamentals are calculation of the cap rate, the cash flow, and the internal rate of return, also known as the IRR. Think of the cap rate, of course, is net operating income divided by purchase price. We want that number to be as high as possible. Cash flow is pretty self-explanatory. We're taking into account rent coming in minus everything else going out: mortgage, strata, property taxes, vacancy, property management fees, capital expenditure. So we want that number, of course, to be as high as possible on a monthly basis. And the internal rate of return, one way to think of that is to think of your, on the stock market, you said, oh, I got a 6% rate of return, I got an 8% rate of return. That over there is a percentage. Of course, we want it to be as high as possible, but over a long period of time, whenever we calculate real estate, it's not as easy. I could take Apple stock and say over a 20-year time period, it's had an annual rate of return of, let's say, 8% or 12% or something of that sort. That means on average, that's what its rate of return has been. Stock market, S&P 500, let's say, has been 9%, which it has been. About 10-year average is about 9%, but it has a 16% volatility, whereas real estate won't have that same volatility. Real estate, won't be down 30%, then up 30%. It doesn't work like that. The internal rate of return is when we sort of factor in everything else, cash flow, as well as taxation, as well as, depreciation, everything else. So this is the type of analysis that we might look. And the reason why I show this is because when people say, where is the best cash flowing real estate? The answer is it could be in one area, but you could have a property in the same city as another property, and one of them is a great investment and the other one isn't. So as a blanket, I've kind of expressed a couple of provinces that I really like. I'm in BC right now, but I really like Alberta. I really like parts of Ontario, but it doesn't mean I don't like BC. It depends on what is the product in the province that you're looking at and what is the deal. Is it an Airbnb? Is it a house? Is it a multi-unit building? So all of these things will differ. But the first thing I want to point out here is, and I should quickly make a quick disclaimer over here. The properties that I'm about to show you, I purposely do not put the addresses on them. That, of course, is the research me and my team are doing for our clients. If you said, oh, I want to buy that property, the one you're showing me right now, then you actually should book a call with me so we could discuss how you could become a client. But right now, these are for educational purposes only. I've just removed the address, of course, because this is information that I am providing for my clients. So this is a 2-bedroom downtown condo, very expensive. So you could probably almost guess which one of the 2 cities this is in. But off of a 20% down payment, $2,800 per month in rental income, 5% vacancy, 8% property management fee, and I'm using a 6% growth appreciation. I've calculated the cap rate 2.9, the internal rate of return 10.74, and the cash flow at negative $1,500 per month. Negative $1,500 per month. So right away you're like, oh my goodness, is this a good deal or not? Essentially, the only play you have here is capital appreciation. Cash flow, it's not going to cash flow. And I find that's what a lot of people are doing. They are investing in areas where they're only gambling on capital appreciation. But what me and my team do is we figure out the numbers. We figure out the cash on cash return as well as the internal rate of return. So on this property here, the cash on cash is severely negative for the next 20 years. We would not be fans of this particular product, even though the internal rate of return is positive. But the only thing is we're bleeding so much money on the cash flow. We wouldn't like it. So now I'm going to shift gears. What if you said, I really, really, really want to buy this property? So what me and my team would do is we would analyze it and say, this is what it will look like if you want to cash flow. So now we are 35% down payment. And instead of doing a long-term rental, we are going to do a corporate rental. So my team and I, we try to figure out how to make a deal work instead of just saying, no, the deal's not going to work. So long-term rental is not going to work out. Airbnb is not allowed in this particular building, but corporate rental is. So corporate rental is sort of month to month. If you're not sure what that even means, by all means, set up a call. So here with a corporate rental, at least we can get it to break even. At the very, very least, we can get to break even. But notice, because we have to put a higher down payment, 35% down, the IRR is affected. So now it's not as good. The cap rate is looking a little bit better because we're generating more cash flow from the corporate rental. Okay. So we wouldn't say don't buy this. We would just say this is what it would look like if you wanted to cash flow. So we would work out the numbers. Okay. But now I'm going to shift gears and sort of say, so when a client says, hey, should I buy this? I'm going to analyze it. But then I would then say, why don't I show you something that is not on your radar out of province? So they like the idea of a condo. They like the idea in the downtown core, and they like the idea of, generating as much cash flow, either from corporate Airbnb or long-term rental. So then I shift gears and I show them this condo. So $350,000 in a downtown core. And right now, this time we'll do it through an Airbnb. This Airbnb is going to charge you typically about 25% property management fees. However, through me and my contacts, because we do bulk discounts, we're able to get that down to 20%, which of course improves your cash flow. It's short-term rental is about $165 per night. Huge strata fee on it, huge strata fee. So then we said, does this still work? The strata fee is really, really high. So when we run the numbers, it works very, very nicely. Cap rate at 7.2, internal rate of return 19.58 with a cash flow of $681. So this to me is our home run. This is why people will work with us, because they said, I can't find that on my own, and I want you and your team to help. So is there, as Michael said, is there a deal out there? Of course there's a deal out there. Like, millionaires are made in recessions. Millionaires are made when no one else is buying anything. The best time to have bought real estate is, of course, when it was down, when nobody wanted to touch it. The best time to buy stocks is when it was down, when we knew that the fundamentals were there. It's just that the amounts were down. So this is a 20% down payment as well. And so I've got a great cap rate, a great IRR, and a great cash flow. Now my cash on cash return is also in the low 20s, as well as my IRR. So this is a house, again, out of province here in BC. And it looks okay, $520,000, making $2,500 a month in rent. BC's prices are significantly higher. But someone might say, is this a good deal? Well, it depends. You know, the capital appreciation is going to be low because it happens to be an area where the capital appreciation, of course, on average, isn't as high as here in Greater Toronto or Greater Vancouver area. Now, the only thing is this guy over here is negative cash flow by a little bit. So is it a good deal? It's an okay deal. It's an okay deal. So this is the client saying, I've come up with a decent house. It's got 2 suites in it. I say it's an okay deal. Then they rely on me and my team, and we show them something different, also out of province. 450,000. This guy over here, because of our creativity, we're going to turn this into student housing because it's close to a university. So what we're going to end up getting is more cash flow, better cap rate, and better IRR. Why? Because we are now playing around with it. So literally on that same block, there could have been another house for the same purchase price, 450,000, but it's a long-term rental. So it depends on what you actually do with the piece of real estate. So 2 houses, same block, one of them doesn't make sense, the other one does. Why? Because of what you're doing with the deal itself. For those of you people who like multi-units or are having trouble finding multi-units, here's a 5-plex. Annual property tax, $7,000, monthly gross rent, about $6,000. Me and my team analyzed this $1.3 million 5-unit, and we get a negative cash flow, right? But so many people are excited to invest in multi-unit. They think, and they're so hard to find right now, they think any multi-unit is gonna do well. Are you okay with that negative cash flow? So our cap rate is at 3.83. Our IRR is at 8.11. For me personally, those are very low numbers when it comes to multi-unit. So now I'm going to show you, and this will be my last one, my home run. So this is my home run over here. It's a new construction, which is great. That means it comes with a 10-year warranty on the product as well. 1.94 million. There are 4 suites, and there's 4 suites with legal suites, making it an 8-plex. Okay. This guy over here is going to be a massive $1,500 a month in cash flow, 5.82 cap rate, and an IRR of 15.31. So everything I've shown you right now is not in the past. This is in the present right now. What does that mean? Is there a deal out there? Of course there's a deal out there. It's up to you to go find it, or up to you to work with somebody who can find it for you. Okay. So what I want to do as a conclusion is to say Canadian real estate is a good long-term investment. Location is important. When people said, oh, where's the best cash flowing real estate, Christian? It could literally be in your backyard. It depends on what you're doing with it. Okay. Getting a cash flow property in the same city as a negative cash flow property is possible, but are you working with someone who's able to find it and analyze it for you? Remember the 3 fundamentals though: cap rate, cash flow, and IRR. You should be analyzing all 3 of those before you make a purchase. And if you don't know how to analyze them, you should work with a team that does, okay? If you did want to connect with me to talk about anything that I may have shown you, by all means, my contact is cdy@latitude-west.ca. So I'm going to shift gears into my my other topic now. Is the Canadian housing bubble going to burst in 2023? So, like I said, I take this information from a couple of different sources. One of them is IA Investment Senior Chief Strategist, Sebastian McMahon. So why might a bubble be bursting here in Canada? So here's some reasons why. Fast rising growth rates. So here, Canadian national average on a house or real estate growth is usually hovering around 6% for a single family home. But we've had a very, very fast growing one, especially in Toronto and Vancouver. We're talking 12%, 18%, and we're talking year over year, double digits. So when something grows that quickly, far above, a natural average, much like the stock market went up really, really fast. And guess what happens when it goes up too fast? It comes back down. And sometimes it also crashes. Our housing market went up that fast. So wouldn't it be natural that we crash? But all of a sudden we see these steep declines over here, negative 10%, probably about year to date, which is roughly the average right now. And last time we had a steep decline that went down that quickly, that fast, was like 2008. And then, of course, now there's a bit of this panic due to high interest rates because, it's the highest interest rate, the highest interest rate spike since the 80s. And then, of course, we have the unaffordability with housing. And then people start to say it's starting to look like the U.S. Housing bubble that burst in 2008. So is there a chance that we're going to burst this bubble? Well, here it shows how we went almost parabolic, our Canadian housing price. Okay. So the average Canadian home price really, really shot up in the last 10 years. That causes people to think, are we increasing too quickly, too fast? Is there a bubble? Mortgage rates. So this over here is since 1990 to now, so about 30 years. 30 years, this is what our mortgage rates have looked like. So notice we were in double-digit territories in the 90s, and then we kept declining down, but now we've spiked back up. The graph at the bottom shows the change. And what that means is almost every single year, every single 5-year cycle, whenever the mortgage rate changed, it went down. So, the mortgage rate kept going down, 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 down. But now all of a sudden it's gone up. And whenever we're such an interest rate sensitive town, something like that can suddenly burst us, because that's exactly what happened to those Americans in 2008. Their interest rates went up just a little bit, and all of a sudden now people's mortgages were greater than the value of their homes, and all of a sudden you had this big bubble burst. So will our housing bubble burst? Okay, so I've got the report right here. I've gone through it, and I do have a background not only in mathematics, but also in economics and in finance. And here's the quick answer: not likely. Not likely. Now, here are the reasons why we are likely not to burst. Okay, our GDP, immigration, education, and income of Canadian citizens, and also our homeowner equity ratio. So REMAX yesterday, as of this recording, November 29th, 2022, the Canadian press has reported from REMAX that 60% of Canadian households will be in a balanced market in 2023. So the majority of our markets will be balanced. So this is their prediction. Their prediction is we're still declining in certain areas, such as Greater Toronto area. So negative 11.8% is what the report is predicting for 2023 for the Greater Toronto area. Barrie, negative 15%, that will lead the largest decline. Vancouver, here where I am, the Lower Mainland, we're looking at another negative 5%. Now remember, we've already dropped quite a bit. But now they're saying in 2023, they're saying that the average home price should see another negative 5% decline. Kelowna and Nanaimo, they went up so quickly. They're experiencing the majority of the downward pressure that's being predicted. So is all of Canada again expected to go down? According to this report, the answer is no. They're saying Alberta, Alberta has come up once again. Edmonton up 3 and Calgary up 7. They're saying that their housing prices is actually trending upward, probably because of the immigration I've already described, probably because of the affordable housing that's there, and probably because of the ton of GDP, in companies that are now moving there, and all the new jobs that are going over there. Halifax, positive 8%. Okay, so why is Canadian housing so incredibly important? So look at the percentage of GDP that belongs to housing in Canada compared to the US. So the US's GDP, real estate in the US makes up about a little under 5% of their GDP. In Canada, we're at little over 10%. So much of our economy is actually reliant on housing in Canada. So when you have that great of a percentage, that means that you probably, it's not as sensitive, okay? So components of the GDP, now we have a large, where is this made up of? New construction, renovations, ownership transfer costs. So now I want you to think, what are some different things that the government who wants our GDP to go up, all they have to do is stimulate the real estate market. By stimulating the real estate market, they are stimulating a sleeping giant when it comes to contributing to the GDP, and that would be our housing market. And we've seen that in the past. We've seen just a little bit of stimulation of, why don't we drop the prime lending rate down 1/4 of a point or down 1/2 a point, and all of a sudden people flock to real estate. When they flock to real estate, jobs, construction, renovations, realtors, and then there's that ripple effect. All those people who are now working are also spending, also contributing to taxes. So now another reason is our population growth rate. So the graph I'm showing over here, 80% of Canadian growth, we're talking population growth, comes from immigration. So we're not having enough babies here ourselves as Canadians, which is why we rely on immigration. 80% of all of our Canadian population's growth will come from immigration alone. Okay, so now let's dissect what's happening with immigrants. Foreign-born population is highly educated. So almost 70%, okay, of foreign-born immigrants, okay, have a post-secondary education. Okay, so for every single person who immigrates to this country, out of every 10, almost 7 of them have a post-secondary education. Someone with a post-secondary education is probably going to get a pretty good job. So that person who gets a pretty good job probably wants to buy a home, right? So there is this great population that is coming in that is educated, thank goodness, because we need those jobs. We've got a health crisis. There's such a shortage of labor all across the board, especially at the professional level. Now those people, what are they doing? They're buying houses, they're paying taxes, they're increasing our GDP. We want more people like that, and we're getting them. Why are we getting them? Canada's an attractive place. It's safe, right? Our real estate prices are safe. Just our economy is safe. Now, what is the employment rate when these people come in over here? We are looking at about a 75% employment rate. So it's not like they're, not working. They are working. And what do they do when they work? They want to buy housing. So home ownership rate for foreign-born population is looking at 65%. Now, just look at it compared to other countries. See, that's the most important thing. Look at it compared to other countries. We are almost this industry leader of educated immigrants coming to this country, wanting to buy real estate, wanting to, work and live and own where they work. So how much, another big factor of why our housing will probably not go, why there won't be a bubble that suddenly bursts, is take a look at this graphic. The light blue represents real estate assets. This is the contribution to the change in households' net worth. So if we take a household's net worth, where is it? The majority of our net worth is in housing. Other assets such as, stocks, bonds, things of that sort, do not make anywhere close to the amount that's in our housing. So if we have all that money in housing over here, how much equity do we have? Take a look at this graphic compared to the Americans. We have got, okay, let me just double check I got my number right over here. We've got a huge percentage of our net worth inside of our housing, unlike in the US. So this over here is probably the largest argument as to what happened in the US and why the bubble burst and why it likely will not happen here in Canada. So here in Canada, we did not have a housing bubble burst in Canada because we still had a large percentage of equity in our homes. Now with the Americans in 2008, we were, look at how low this number was, because you had people that of course were, they had mortgages that were greater than the value of their own homes. even if our homes drop by, let's say, 20%, the majority of us would still have more equity. I mean, what I mean by that is our mortgages would still be lower than the actual value of our home, even if we drop by 20%. Okay. So in conclusion, the economics do not support the Canadian real estate bubble bursting. A correction is likely, which is what we are feeling right now, absolutely. But should you be buying real estate right now? I think the quick answer is yes. Don't try to time the market. Don't try to time the market. Kind of like what Michael said over here. Let's prepare for 2023. If prices are going down, both his slides and my slides have shown that, real estate is a solid investment. It will continue to go up, but perhaps there's just going to be a sale in 2023, right? The numbers I've just shown over here, Greater Toronto area, Vancouver area, the numbers are going to be low. Isn't that a sale? Like, isn't that exactly what that is? Let's just get prepared to do it. So I've been investing in real estate for over 20 years, and I've been helping clients for 15 years to make good financial decisions. I have yet to have a client come back to me and says, Christian, you know how you encouraged me to buy some real estate? You know how you encouraged me to buy my home, 3 years ahead of schedule? You know how you encouraged me, instead of buying one investment real estate property, you encouraged me to buy 3? I have yet to find one come back to me and says, terrible decision, absolutely terrible decision. Even if they bought in bad years, that's the whole idea of trying to get cash flowing real estate, because that cash flowing real estate can survive you through those weak years over here. So I remind you what the 3 regrets of real estate, the 3 regrets for real estate investors are. Please don't try to fall into one of these categories. But if you're a real estate investor, you've probably experienced at least one of them, as have I. So what are the 3 regrets? Number 1, not buying earlier. So a lot of people said, oh, how I bought a place in 2018? I totally wish I should have bought it in 2010. I had the opportunity to buy it in 2010. I bought it in 2018 instead. I'm glad I bought it, but I should have bought it earlier. That's regret 1. Regret number 2, I sold too early. Oh, I had a piece of real estate, I bought it in 2010. I sold it in 2015. I totally should have held on to it longer. I would have been up another couple $100,000. So regret number 2, selling too early. And regret number 3, not buying more. So he says, oh, I had this opportunity in 2010 to buy 2 places as opposed to 1, and I totally should have bought 2. So my regret is I didn't buy enough. I was there in the past. I could have bought more. If I was to relive my real estate life, I would have, of course, dodged those 3 mistakes. I would have bought more, I would have bought earlier, and I would not have sold. I've only ever sold twice, so it's not too much regrets. But if I would have held on to those 2 where I didn't need to sell, but I sold, then I would be up quite a bit more. Okay, so what is the Latitude-West philosophy? We believe, yes, in the stock market, but we want stock exposure, not stock reliance. We believe in the real estate market quite heavily for our clients. We want them to buy more real estate, and we believe in having a fixed reserve, something that we can access so we can buy things whenever they're on sale. So our philosophy comes from the Tiger 21, and if you don't know who they are, feel free to research them. They are the wealthiest investors in the world. Average investor has $100 million, something I want to point out. 31% of their assets is in real estate, in real estate that they own. There's got to be a reason for that. 22% is in some sort of like a fixed income accessibility to buy, and less than 50% is actually in the stock market. So the traditional advisor is going to say, go to the bank and go get a financial advisor. They're going to say, put it, a balanced portfolio into stocks and bonds, something like that. You'll probably get somewhere around a 7% rate of return but you'll still have a huge standard deviation. And right now, if anyone has got, money in the markets and you're down, you're feeling that standard deviation now. Our philosophy is different. We believe in a mixture of direct real estate ownership. And if direct real estate ownership, as you saw my numbers on the IRR, we would love it if we can get you into the 15 to 22% range on the IRR. We like our private funds. Our private funds usually get somewhere in the 12% range. Our core portfolio, which probably looks something similar to what the banks are doing, we aim for that 8% target. Our estate bonds, we like estate bonds. We don't like regular bonds. We aim for that 5% target. We have historically always stayed above the S&P 500 benchmark, as well as balanced portfolio benchmarks. Should you be using advisor? The quick answer is yes, but the answer is the right advisor. If you're a real estate investor, get a real estate focused advisor. Real estate focused advisor. So statistically, you're better off with an advisor if they are advising you on the right things. So now what I'd like to do is now is the opportunity for us to field some of these questions. So we've got a Q&A. I already see a couple of questions over here. And okay, so I'm gonna go. Okay, so I'll moderate it over here, Michael, for the both of us. Will this be recorded and emailed to me? Michael, I believe the answer is it is recorded and put on the Green Team's website. Is that correct?
I think we might be putting it on the YouTube. If not, it'll be sent out. But we'll follow up in an email about where you can see the recording.
Perfect. Can I get a copy of the presentation, especially the Excel workbook? Michael, the Excel workbook, can you share that?
Is that the pro forma? Sorry, who was asking that?
Yeah, I think it's from Mehdi. Mehdi is asking, can you get a copy of your Excel workbook? Mehdi, here's my advice. Email Michael directly, and I'm sure he will share it. And I'm going to share.
Yeah, we have quite a few tools at Green Mortgage. So if you guys need any tools to help analyze deals, just give me a shout and I'll figure out how to send it to you.
Perfect. So here is Michael's direct email. Here's my direct email. Okay, so next question. How do you get the cap rate and the IRR? So the cap rate is an easier one. The cap rate is take the net operating income, which is all the rent coming in, and then subtract all the expenses going out annualized. So annual rent minus annual expenses, but do not include mortgage. Do not include mortgage. Then you divide it by the purchase price. So of course, if you do the math, you want this number to be as high as possible, okay? So that's the cap rate. What's the best usage of cap rate? Comparing one property to the other. That's what we use cap rate for. So if somebody says, hey, there's a cap rate of 3%, is that good or bad, Christian? And the quick answer is, well, what else are you buying? What else can you compare it against? If you said, well, I've got a cap rate of 1, 2, 0, well, then that 3% cap rate is good. It's the best thing you could find. But if you said, I've got a 7% cap rate right over here out of province, then that 3% isn't looking so good anymore. Now, is it? Now, we only don't use cap rate. We also use cash flow. Cash flows, of course, are you positive or negative each month? Now, the IRR, it's going to take a while. That's why we have software to figure out IRR, because IRR calculates not only the growth, it also calculates the rent that's coming in. It also calculates the mortgage equity that's being added. So mathematically, this is a very, very, very hard number to calculate. Luckily, we have software to calculate this for us with our team. Okay.
Also to point out, Christian, the cap rate, as well as a good way to figure out the market price of a certain flow of cash flows. So if you have a certain amount of cash flow for a specific type of investment, you're trying to compare it to another investment in the same market that has a different cash flow, you can compare and contrast the property value or the asset value.
Absolutely. Like what I like to use IRR for specifically is the stock market. Okay, I am a genius and I can get whatever 10% in the stock market by doing a couch potato strategy ETF index fund. Okay. What's your IRR? Well, if I do it in my TFSAs, your IRR is your growth rate because there's no taxation on that. If you're doing it outside, you have to include the taxation. So you might be getting your 10%, but after taxes on a non-registered investment or corporate investment, you might only be getting 6. That might be your IRR. Whereas I calculate the IRR with the real estate already because I'm able to enter into my software all of the assumptions, including taxation. So if I say you're getting an IRR of 22%, how could a number of IRR at 22% be possible? Well, you got to remember, in day one, I may only put down $100,000. The bank puts in the other 400,000. That's 500,000. Day 30, year 30, I own the full property. So if it's worth $4 million, I get the full $4 million back, right? So then my software calculates what is the internal rate of return on my $100,000 investment. That's how the IRR is being calculated. Okay. Next question. Vacancy tax in BC has that affected the housing market? I would quickly say very, very little. Michael, what would you say?
Yeah, one of the things that I kind of talk about is how the low vacancy in BC and Toronto as well kind of create almost a GIC effect, like a guaranteed investment certificate effect in Vancouver and Toronto, in the sense that vacancy is really low, so the risks of not having a tenant in your unit is also quite low. Unfortunately, also the tenants have more rights in those areas than the landlord does, so there are other types of risks. But I actually think the vacancy rate has an effect on who invests in the market, not as much the price of the market.
Sure, sure. Okay, somebody asked, are there really opportunities to cash flow on new condo suites in Metrotown and Brentwood neighborhoods in Burnaby? So I have done analysis left, right, center, up, down, and it is very, very, very hard to cash flow if you're doing a traditional long-term rental, unless your down payment is high. So I can make anything cash flow, put 50% down payment, 70% down payment. But the question to me and my team is there better usage of that money? For that same down payment, can I buy a multi-unit apartment building out of province that's going to have a better cash flow, better cap rate, and better IRR? That would be the comparisons I would try to do. And the one way that me and my team work is we never tell clients what to do. We just analyze the information for them, and we bring them deals, and we let them make up their mind. We do not have relationships with realtors in the way that we get a kickback or anything of that sort. So I apologize if I'm clobbering a bunch of people's pre-construction, Brentwood, Metrotown. Those deals are very, very hard to cash flow. We've seen opportunities here in BC in other areas that do cash flow, or at least come close to break even though. Okay, how does Latitude help a client? So we help clients in two ways. One, if you need to get financially organized, me and my team, we are traditional financial advisors. Figure out your retirement, figure out your insurance, figure out your investments, figure out your portfolio, figure out whether you're doing whatever you're doing is correct. Anything that a traditional financial advisor will do is what me and my team at Latitude-West do. But the thing that makes us different is we're real estate focused for those who want real estate investments. And what I mean by that is, if you go to the bank, not to throw dirt on the banks, if you go to the bank and you said, hey, I want to buy some real estate, I'm thinking of buying some real estate out in downtown Vancouver, do you think that's a good deal or not? They're probably going to say, figure it out on your own. I will take care of your mutual funds, but you figure that out. I don't want to give you right or wrong advice. Whereas I will analyze that, figure out if that's a good opportunity, and then I will bring you 2 or 3 other opportunities, either with better cap rates, better cash flows, right? So that's the greatest way that Latitude-West helps clients, is we help you with your real estate decisions. We help you with your growing of real estate opportunities, as well as helping you with your insurance, as well as helping you with your investments. Okay, is there a fee for service for your plan for Latitude-West? So the quick answer is we have 2 models. One is a fee for service. If you said, Christian, I've got all my investments already done, I've got all my insurance already done, but man, can I use that real estate help? Absolutely, we could do a fee for service. Just in the same way you do a fee for service with an accountant or a lawyer, we can do that. But if you said, I want you guys to be my financial advisors, I want to move my portfolio over to you, I want to do, everything with you guys, then absolutely we could do it in a non-fee for service basis as well. So again, feel free to connect with us. Our discovery meetings are always complimentary. We always do complimentary discovery meetings. So our discovery meeting would be me getting to know you and you getting to know me. I would not charge you a single penny. And if you decided not to work with me, I would just give you as much free advice in our meeting as I possibly can and point you in the right direction. We're a very, very mature firm in the sense that we actually have quite a few clients already. We're just looking to work with the right ones. And at the same time, we want to help as many people as we possibly can, which is why we're doing this webinar, just to help people. Okay, next question. Okay, there's my contact information again. What real estate investments would you recommend that folks in or near retirement focus on? Cash flowing. You want cash flowing real estate. Why? You might not have enough years to bank on that capital appreciation. So I would say something that is cash flowing, and don't say that there's nothing cash flowing. I just shown you 3 properties that are cash flowing off of a 20% down payment right now. Okay. How How much money do you need to start investing with your organization? I think that is an email, and then we'll have a private conversation with that one over there. Because the quick answer is it depends. It depends on your situation. It depends on what you're doing. So there's too many variables that depend. Okay, I'm from Quebec but live in BC. In a lot of real estate sessions, I hear about BC, Alberta, Ontario, but not so much about Quebec markets and real estate. What are your thoughts on the Quebec market? I will be the first to be transparent and say I have not analyzed Quebec in the same way that I've analyzed BC, Alberta, Ontario, as well as New Brunswick. Those are the main focuses that we've been spending a lot of our time on. But if you were to show me properties in Quebec, I would analyze them. If you were my client, I would analyze them to death. I would then put a spotlight on that particular property, on that particular area, and that's the type of research my clients do with me. And the way that I can show that is, I have clients who are investing in Mexico. I have clients who are investing in Arizona. I have clients who are investing in the UK, but they live here in BC, and they say, "Well, I could invest in these other opportunities, Christian. Can you help me to figure out whether they are good opportunities or not?" Absolutely. My team and I, this is where we specialize in. We absolutely can investigate that. So if you wanted to investigate some of your Quebec things, give us a call and then we'll let you know if it's possible. Do you recommend using private lending money to build your real estate portfolio? Michael, do you want to maybe talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it largely depends on your strategy. We have quite a few investors that have used private funds to scale very quickly their real estate portfolio. But I'd say one of the biggest things that you want to be cognizant of are two things. One is, what is the exit plan and how are you financing the exit plan? We often see some people come in that have built portfolios without considering how they're going to hold long-term their investments. And so if you're using private funds to acquire properties or do BRRRR or flip or something like that, and you haven't considered how you're going to finance the exit, then you're going to be missing a key piece, and you need to analyze what that looks like. The other thing is cash flow. Private lending is usually at a higher rate and a higher cost, and you have to be aware of what the additional cost on your portfolio is going to be and how long you're going to be in that private loan for.
Okay. Because I want to be mindful of time, I'm going to try to answer as many of these questions as quickly as possible, okay? If the inflation rate will go down, do you think the Bank of Canada will continue to keep the interest rates high? I personally do not. I think if the inflation rate goes down, I think we're going to head into, with inflation rate being high, I think our economy is going to slow down. And I think they're going to need to lower the interest rate in order to stimulate, sort of off the graphic, because that's what they've done historically. It's a nice, easy, quick fix solution. We're in a recession. Let's get out of it, lower the interest rate, and people will start buying more real estate because it has this massive ripple effect. Do you see the removal of rental restrictions in strata properties in BC affecting real estate prices? I do. I think the real estate prices are going to go up because it's going to get a lot more attractive for guys like me. Anyone who is investing in real estate, it just got a lot friendlier for us. Okay. Next one over here. I have $50,000 down payment, but I already own 2 properties. Do you think it's realistic for me to find another rental property? And I think the quick answer is yes. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Like, worst case scenario, take a look at a B lender. If a traditional bank won't lend it to you, why don't you look at a B lender? And I know what you're thinking. B lender, that means interest rates will be even higher. You don't care about interest rates. Care about cash flow. I will take a 12% interest rate right now if I was cash flowing $500 a month on a 20% down payment, right? Don't care about interest rates, care about cash flow. That's the more important thing. Get the deal analyzed. And if you don't know how to do that, you want to work with a team that's able to do it. All right.
Just to add on, sorry, Christian, just in regard to the 50,000 down payment, another potential option is joint venture partnerships. If you find other people that have cash as well and need additional capital, that could be a potential option to continue growing your portfolio.
Sure. Would it be advisable to invest in a REIT? And the quick answer is maybe. It depends on what you're trying to do. We at Latitude-West have a fantastic REIT shelf. Okay. And so this is the person who wants to invest in real estate. Why? Because they don't want all their money exposed to the stock market. It's too bloody volatile. But maybe they don't want to actually buy a piece of real estate and manage it and deal with the toilets and the tenants. Does a REIT make sense for a person's portfolio? Sure. Absolutely. But I think it depends largely on how much you have, because some of these REITs come with restrictions, such as it has to have a minimum amount to go in, and they want you to leave it in for a certain amount of time. So again, if you're looking at some great REITs, fantastic. If you want to take a look at the REITs that we use, they are top of the line. They're probably the best in class for a Canadian REIT. Okay. Okay. Somebody asked. Says, are you experienced with the Smith maneuver used line real estate? I personally am. Smith maneuver is something I even use myself. I own multiple properties. If you want to talk a little bit more about that, I'm happy to talk with you. If you want to talk a little bit more about with Michael, feel free. I was wondering whether you would recommend REITs for those who don't have any money. Yeah, so somebody else asked about REITs. I like REITs. I personally like REITs because I don't like all of my money exposed in the stock market. The portfolio that I showed you before, where it showed direct real estate investments, it also showed private investments. A lot of that in my portfolio does have REITs, and I've had fantastic rates of return. So I could highly recommend several REIT companies that I've used myself. Okay. Are you able to advise on exempt market deals? So the quick answer is yes, Nadine, I am. Again, book a call and I'll show you our exempt market shelf. Okay. Do you still need to hire a realtor if I help you find a property? I cannot sell a property. So the quick answer is yes, you would need a realtor, but I have trusted realtors all across the country. You do not have to use them. But if you don't know anyone in the province of an area that you want, then it would be a great starting point. Okay. Okay. So somebody has a single family home purchased in 2017 and was nicely cash flowing until the interest rates increased. We are now at a variable rate mortgage. We're bleeding 800 a month. Our tenants do not want to move. We are considering selling to buy a multi-unit, figured a 5.8% cap rate. In my opinion, keeping this property will not align with our. We have 6 years. What are your thoughts? This, Janet, is a perfect financial planning question. Wouldn't it be great if we had a financial planner that can analyze this and help direct you? And can we go to traditional financial advisors and banks for this? Typically not. This is exactly what I mean. Unfortunately, I can't give you an answer why. I haven't analyzed anything. I need to see the full picture. I need to, before I make a recommendation, I'd want to dig deep to figure out all the other places that are going on. But if you did want to just start with a phone call, I'd happy to help you. And if I can give you some free advice after asking you a few more questions, then I'm happy to do so. Oh, do you provide consultations for setting up corporate structures? Absolutely. It's one of our fields of expertise. The majority of our clients are actually physicians and dentists. Many of them incorporate with an operating company and the holding company. If they have a holding company, great place to hold the real estate. But now we have to figure out, one of our expertise is we can get them, we can help you set it up, but our expertise is how are we going to minimize the taxes? How are we going to minimize how to get the money out? So again, that is one of our areas on the other side of the quadrants of our fields of expertise, with the financial planning, the corporate planning, the insurance, the investments on that side, not just the real estate, but the holistic picture. Okay. Can I have the recording? In the new construction example, did your analysis tool include provincial taxes in the cost of the property? So I believe you're referring to mine, and the quick answer was yes. We incorporated everything. Okay, I think we're at the end here. Sold my primary property in April, waiting for market to correct. Where would you park the cash? So I would personally take a look at something like a core portfolio that was less than 40% correlated with the stock market, that was actually very, very heavy on low volatility. We do have a core portfolio. To give you an example, a stock market is down, it was down 24% in October. It's down about 17% now. Our core portfolio is up 6%. So even in this type of market, there is ways to structure things so that you're not losing money, or at least there's low volatility in it. Okay, so I apologize if I missed anybody's question, but that's what our emails are for. So we are a little bit over time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to cap it off there. I'm going to thank everybody for coming. I'm going to thank Michael for hosting. I'm going to thank everyone for all of your great questions. We were not here today to sell you anything. We were here today to educate you and invite you to connect with us if we can help you more. We'd love for you to do business with us, but more importantly, we'd love for you to continue to build wealth through real estate, not to make mistakes. That to me was my number one agenda over here. If you want to connect with me and if I can help you further, I'm happy to do so. And Michael, as a trusted partner with the Green team, I have been referring business to them, as well as even doing a few deals myself, starting the process. And I know that we can help you if you need any help further. So with that, Michael, signing off. And for everybody over here, this should be recorded. Michael will let you guys know how to access the recording because he probably has your email addresses. I wish you guys a great rest of the night. And let's go in strong in 2023 with that one message. Is 2023 going to be the year of opportunity? It will, even though with higher interest rates, it will be lots of opportunity. Every year there's been opportunity in one form or another. Just make sure you're working with the right people, though. That's my final message.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian. Thanks for everyone for coming. We'll see you soon.